Hey there, I'm Dejan Isak and this is the Agency Engine Room, where we cut through the noise of thousands of tools to reveal the systems that actually deliver client results. The agencies that scale aren't just using more tools. They're strategically integrating the right tools to create operational engines that consistently deliver without burning out their teams. Find show notes and resources at agencyengineroom.com or /agencyengineroom on LinkedIn. Today, we're opening the engine room with Evripides Gavriel. His automation frameworks have helped agencies save over $11 million, and he refuses to build anything without detailed ROI forecasts first. Evripides, welcome to the Agency Engine Room. Tell us briefly about your work with agencies and the problems you're solving.
I began my journey by starting as a ClickUp Verified Consultant about 5 years ago, I think, or even more. From there, I started, adding more tools in my arsenal, building more partnerships with other tools, and I've been creating these, solutions which I just deliver to my clients. It's an ongoing journey. AI came now, so something I need to learn, something I need to learn to implement.
You've built operational systems across 4 continents. What kind of recurring pattern did you discover in agency workflows that led you to your current approach?
Most agencies actually struggle with their moneymaker. I would say the core operations that actually make them money, which is delivering to their clients. And the biggest factor in that is actually communicating with clients. They spend way too much time in communication because of, let's say, a lack of transparency in their processes sometimes. Too many channels of communication, like too many options for their customers, like some calls, some emails, some texts, some like that gets chaotic. So they most of them just suffer from overhead when it comes to either with client communication or like communication overhead, either with the clients or internally, like too many meetings, too many decisions to make.
So I'm actually very curious, how did you become a ClickUp consultant? Like, how did you discover ClickUp and what led you to be a consultant specifically for this tool?
I've had a funny journey. To be honest, I first discovered ClickUp actually as soon as it came out, like I don't know, 0.01 version, let's call it, back when the logo was purple and the whole ClickUp was purple, no rainbow, like no gradient, like logos, like super simple solution. I used to work as a social media manager in Prague back then. Then I quit. I began my own agency, and then I actually became so good at building my own process. And because I like to call myself a naturally lazy person, so I was automating everything. Then other agency owners, which I was networking with back then, they came to me and they wanted the same system, the same automations. Like, everyone gets tired of doing, a lot of manual accounting. Everyone gets tired of these back and forth communications to sign a client. So they came to me, I signed them, I built their systems, and I was like, okay, why not do this professionally? I found out ClickUp had a verified program, and I was in love with their product and also their speed of development, their growth rate. Sometimes it can be clunky, but that's the cost you paid for ongoing fast development, right? So I'm good with that. Like, just bring me new features, new ways to work better. And yeah, if it's a little bit clunky at times, okay, that's cool. And I began my journey back then with ClickUp. Now it has grown to one of, major market shareholders in the industry. That's yeah, finally enough, that's how it began. And like, I will say, ClickUp was at the core of it because that's where I started, building the systems and processes. And then I added all the tools I have in my arsenal, like, Make.com, and so on.
As a ClickUp consultant, have you at this point already tried to find like agencies as clients, or did you target like anyone using ClickUp?
I had a very specific focus from the beginning, and one was agencies. First of all, because I started as an agency, so I was very familiar with the processes, with the systems, and how an agency functions. And then my second focus was software startups and agile teams. I really like agile methodologies. I'm a huge fan. I use agile methodologies in the way I work for my clients, with the people I work, and I see the benefits of it. So those were the two core, sometimes combining, agencies, for example, agile marketing and these kind of things. That was some like very exciting things that I got to work on. Whoever, is fit to work in agile, I always recommend it to them. I try to set them up on it. So that was my, let's say, target. And, that's also that's how I was also marketing myself. I specialize in digital ecosystem setups with ClickUp as the center, but I only do agile setup.
So I'm wondering, since you introduce these new workflows, at what point are the agencies failing right now? So they must have very specific processes that are like causing issues, like, I don't know, invoices are not getting paid, they do a lot of manual work, projects are not delivered on time. So what do you see with these agencies that are causing these operational failures?
Usually when it's a single, a very small team, let's say up to 5 people, they start feeling pressure when they start getting too much. Like if they are a good agency, they're gonna and they have results, they're gonna get a lot of work, right? So when they have too much work and they start understand that, when you have very customized packages, for example, as your services, which is, you need to go through long discovery with your clients and I don't know, and then create these custom solutions and packages and blah, blah, blah. And like, I mean, if you have, if you are a team of 5 and then let's say you have 10 clients like that and you only have the ability to get 1 or 2 more clients per month because your discovery process takes 2 to 3 weeks, if not more. I'm talking about like small agencies which they just provide basic services. Like I'm not talking web development or product development agency. I like Bubble.io agency which discovery takes months, and then they start like the drawbacks start from there because they're losing money already while they're doing the discovery, and then they're losing time. And then you have the other level where they they just try to hire more people to handle these things, but then you understand at the end of the day your profit margin stays the same. You still lose that amount of time. It's just you're paying other people to lose their time. And then you have the next level where they actually realize that, and then they go and they try to learn, okay, how can I save time? How can I do this? And then they find out about ClickUp because before ClickUp they were just using chat and Slack and notes and whatever, or Trello. I mean, no offense to Trello, but not the ideal tool for scaling businesses. Just Kanban boards. Like you need something more consistent with databases. And they try to implement it themselves before consulting with an expert, but then they understand there is so many elements going into building a system like that they get too overwhelmed, and then they come to me or to any other consultant.
I've heard the story a lot, like talking to other agencies that they try to build it themselves. Sometimes they build like a complete custom client portal with anything project management related inside. Then they see how much it costs just to develop it. If they even make it to like some kind of launch version and then use it and then maintain it, because maintenance also costs money. Like that's what people I think always forget. Like it's not free. You have to maintain it. There will be bugs. Something will stop working. So not easy. And I'm also wondering, when you conduct like an audit for these companies, I guess you go through the entire tech stack they're using right now. What is the most expensive operational bottleneck you find?
I don't know. It's more like misuse. Like a lot of these businesses, they just sign up for software, and then one of the biggest mistakes they do is that they implement the software and they think that everyone in the business needs to use it. So let's say you are an agency with 30 people. You decide you're using ClickUp. ClickUp has a native time tracker, and then another team doesn't get what they need from the native ClickUp time tracker, right? So they're like, okay, we need to use another time tracking app. Then they're like, okay, we need to move the whole business to the other time tracking app. Like, no, you can just move that team of 5 people, pay the fee for those 5 people, and okay, you're done with it. Like you don't need to move the whole business, because it's depending on business. Like let's say you have a marketing team, you have a PR team, you have a website development team as an agency, or an SEO team. Like if your SEO team just needs a different time tracking tool, okay, the SEO team just needs to go there. Or if they're using, I don't know, other different tools, and then they have every user and every tool they call. But like as an operation bottleneck, I mean, it's the money you don't see spending. That's the problem. Communication, that's the biggest issue.
Speaking about money, so when you audit the agency workflow, before you implement anything new, I guess you could just calculate the hidden costs they have right now and use a specific formula to identify it. Can you just give us a quick demo of what you're doing and how it looks like on your end?
So when I start working with a business, as I said, first thing I touch on before they tell me, okay, we want to fix our HR processes, we want to fix our accounting processes, we want to fix our, marketing processes, sales processes, and so on. Like the first thing I focus on is like, okay, first of all, is like how you sell, how you make money, and how you deliver to your customers. Whether if you're a software startup, is like how fast or how do you ship products, how do you handle technical debt? What are the data? How often do you have bugs on your releases and so on? Or if it's an agency, what's your delivery cycle? How fast are you in delivering? Because depending on how fast are you and how much time you spend delivering, literally defines how much money you're making. Step one is learn the process, which is sit down on a Miro board, on any whiteboarding tool, and just build flowcharts, because 95% of everyone that comes to me, no one has any diagram, or some of them have SOPs, the written SOPs, but that doesn't give you a clear picture of all your processes and how they interact with each other. Like SOP is a process on how to complete a specific task. A whole process is a collection of SOPs, flowing together from one step to another with, conditional logic. Like if this, then like you need to understand what variations do you have so you can prevent errors, so you can optimize and build this sort of, mental models to, whatever situation comes up, you already know the answer. So that's where we start. And then while designing the process, we identify what I like to call, key automation points, which is, areas where we can automate something. And then as soon as I identify those points, we decide, okay, which out of these automations is going to give the most value and which ones are they worth implementing. Worth implementing, it means if I build these, how much is it going to cost? And are you going to save at least that amount of money with that automation within a year's time? If you're not going to save it, you might as well just, do the task manually. No worth implementing. Like, I mean, if it's going to cost you, 1,000 euros to build an automation and it's not going to save you 500 euros, then it's not worth it. Sometimes it's worth it. Some automations, they have hidden costs, which is, for example, error probability. And how much time does it, like if an error happens, if you do this manually, how much time does it take you to realize it happened? And how much time does it take you to fix the error? So this is one of the things I take into account in my ROI formula calculations to estimate, okay, like maybe it's not going to save you in time, but it's going to save you in errors, which errors cause a lot of headache, which headache drains energy, which essentially makes you want to work less and you don't want to follow that process. So maybe it doesn't look like it's worth saving ROI wise, but it is, mentally wise, like to keep your sanity, let's say, it's worth automating some things.
Can you give an example of what kind of automation would help you reduce errors? Is it like, I don't know, checking an invoice and making sure that, let's say you're checking an invoice through automations and making sure that, I don't know, that it's attached to the right customer or something like that?
Say you use a customer portal like SPP, but then you are using a separate accounting software, one that it's local, For example, in Greece, there is a specific accounting software which also does your filing, your tax filings and so on. Imagine you're selling a productized service, and you sell, over 20, you have over 20, 30 invoices per day, right? Like link building and these kind of things. And then you save a lot of time creating, like transferring one invoice from SPP to the accounting software, and you can automate it basically, and also this minimizes human error. The only human error that can happen is when the customer types in their details, if their details are wrong, which is again human error. But now with AI, we have ways to rectify these things. Or like AI can go make a check and take a decision: is this correct? Yes. Is this wrong? No. Let's text the customer to change their details. And when they text us back, like yeah, AI bring this kind of decision making in automation, which we didn't have before. Before it was very repetitive things with like standardized variables and constants, which like that those were the only things we can now make decisions, which is incredible. This one example. Other examples is automating communications or messages. Let's say you want to sync your emails with your tasks in ClickUp, or your I don't know, Zendesk, like customer support desk, with your tickets in ClickUp. Sometimes like it's also worth automating things, so you just keep everything in one place, right? And so you don't need to run back and forth opening 700 different apps.
Let's look under the hood of your automation engine. You've built a specific system architecture combining different tools like Make, ClickUp, or even SPP. How does this operational stack transform daily workflows for agencies? What exactly happens to the team productivity in the first week after you implement it?
There are two scenarios here to take into consideration. There is a small paradox when it comes to automating too many things. One, the team is gonna love it and they're gonna start saving a lot of time, and they're gonna, the team start focusing on the work that matters the most. Like let's say you are in an agency, a video editing agency, and you receive a video, you edit it, you send it. You don't have the administrative, like you change one status and then the automations take care of the rest. That it goes to the next person to review it, and then when the status changes again, it automatically goes to the client to review it, and so on. You don't have this thing where you need to go write the text, upload it, send it, give details. Now you just edit it, you add your details somewhere, you change the status, it goes where it needs to go. And it just flows through the process, with automation. Delegation automations are one of the most common things we automate. Things going, being in the hands of the right person at the right time. But then there is this paradox where you introduce a new team to a new software, example ClickUp, and then you automate pretty much everything. Then it becomes the paradox where, if your team doesn't very well know your processes, they don't understand what's automated, and then you actually have human errors occurring. I had a client recently which we had this case. It was a very good learning experience for me, learning that even though you can automate a lot of things, you really need to take your team technical capabilities and understanding of your business processes. You really need to take this into account. Sometimes it's just worth let them do it manually first for 1 month, especially if you introduce a new software. Let them run it manually in the new software and then automate it, so they see the difference and they see they understand what gets automated. Now, if a new person comes to your team, it will be automatically automated. It's good to have documentation of what's automated, how the process flows. Documentation is always key.
Yeah, speaking of documentation, I'm wondering if you also write some sort of documentation for them, like something for a handover, so they know everything, how everything works, how to train the team, and so on.
When it comes to team training, I prefer to do it myself. Yeah, in terms of handovers, I don't do very big handovers. I do document, automations and how they work. I found out that, long documents, they are not necessarily helpful. You write them. My clients ask them of me a lot, but my clients, the people I work with are the executives, the people that need to use them, which are the management slash workforce, which actually does the tasks. They don't read them. So I have this thing where I'm just arguing a lot with my customers, which is, executive asks you, I want documentation. You do the documentation, no one reads them. So I found out that the most useful thing to have is flowcharts, which you can visualize how everything flows. You need a good system of flowcharts, specific shapes, and like you can use the standardized, but you need to introduce your own, let's say for automations and things, clear of like at each step who is responsible for it, what is automated, what is not automated, and so on. SOPs are great, small SOPs for specific tasks, but even those, like, it's just better to have checklist templates, which you can do in ClickUp, for example, or small tasks and templates like that. But like long documentations they can be just way too much, especially if you introduce them like holistically to a whole new tool with a ton of automations. Just read the flowchart, get to know your process, what's the job you need to do, and you're good.
Let's move on to the user impact section, because agencies that I talk to often bring up the issue that some of their clients, they want to be a little bit more involved in what is going on. Like they don't know what the progress of a specific task or project is. So do you have some kind of framework that eliminates this time wasting back and forth where they just email the agency constantly? So what's the status on my project right now?
I had a framework. Now I'm building a new one, because AI is changing the landscape. Do we like it? Do we not? Doesn't matter. It's just changing it. Like, I mean, so what did I had before? What I had before is that, okay, depending how productized your agency is, you do need a front-end solution for your customers. So your customers to do certain jobs. First of all, you need to identify what kind of jobs your customers need to do. One, pay your invoices. Two, buy your services. Three, review the deliverables you send them. Four, communicate with you. Five, like stay up to date with projects, and so they can also keep you accountable on your deliverables. Customers love to do that, keeping you accountable.
Yeah, and I would suggest also the intake forms, because sometimes they have to give you some project information, right, so that the project can actually continue or start.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another customer job. When was it that I got in touch with SPP? Oh, was it 2 years ago? Three?
Yeah, I think it was almost 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, and that was been a long time. Oh my God. Me personally, I found SPP, been super happy with it ever since. Almost any agencies I introduced them. Like, I take into account a lot of things. I've seen a lot of my customers, honestly, like one thing everyone struggles with is adaptability from the customer end. Honestly, a lot of the agencies, they work with small medium-sized businesses, like small mostly, and those customers, they don't want to. We're also a small population, 800,000 people, like people in everyone knows everyone. They don't want to log into a portal, they just want to call you. Using a customer portal in Cyprus, for example, was not very successful. Can it be successful if it has the right incentives for the client to actually use it? Like, if it provides them, is it worth cutting off phone communications and just tell them just use the portal? Or is it better to, I mean, they are just happier to talk on the phone. So adaptability is a big thing I take into consideration when introducing a front-end solution, and identifying the customer jobs is one thing, but identifying the customer profile, like who is your customer? Is it a customer that will use a client portal? Also, the client portal is mostly, even though it is good on phones, it's mostly web based. So is this customer using their phone mostly? Are they on the go? Or are they on their laptop or PCs all the time? Like, that also gives you an info, like, are your customers going to be using the client portal or not? Sometimes they don't need to log in every time. Sometimes they just need to log in to, fill in some information, an onboarding form, an intake form, and these kind of things, which is fine. But they just a question like, are you getting a good ROI on your back from spending a hefty amount of money paying for a customer portal?
Yeah, makes sense. Every time I talk to agencies, I ask them this, like, how much do people use their client portal? And it varies widely from, okay, like 10% are using it. It depends on the agency. They're usually like, if they have customers that are not very tech savvy, they're not going to log in much. But I think one agency I talked to, they said, oh, it's actually very surprising. I serve local SEO businesses in US, and it was actually like 50-50 almost, which is very rare. But it depends, I guess, also on the country.
I have one of my customers. They have more than 90% adaptability. They're a video editing agency, which is great. They get a lot of. We also build other channels for them to get jobs. For example, we build we have a job form where they send out and they get orders without. So the customer doesn't need to log in into SPP. They just kind of fill a job form, and then the order goes into SPP, and then the SPP from SPP goes into ClickUp, and then the team it gets also delegated automatically to the right managing editor and so on, and it just flows through the process, which is amazing. But yeah, adaptability when it comes to client portal, it is a super important thing, but you need to be in the right state as an agency. First of all, your services need to be productized. Like, you cannot have super custom packages and use a customer portal because it becomes strange and clunky. And then you lose adaptability. You want a way where your client finds your website or your ad, they click on it, they go in your website, they buy a service through an order form, they log in, fill the information, get that deliverable back, is done.
Sometimes I see agencies, they want to use something like SPP, but they're very boutique. So everything is extremely custom. Like you said earlier, like it takes months of back and forth, proposals. Sometimes it doesn't go anywhere. So that's like the worst use case because it doesn't make sense. In SPP, you don't even have a proposal software or anything. So I think they're trying to force use a software that looks very good, but is not a good fit for them.
Yeah. I used to do proposals. I feel like if you ask most people in my area of work, they get projects, they do a huge proposal. I hate proposals. Like, the amount of time you need to actually put into one. Like, if you care about building a good, useful proposal, like a lot of consultants, agencies that I've worked with, they just give you something super random, standardized deliverables. And so, I don't need a proposal for that. Like, you have these things in your packages and in your services. I don't do this thing because it just takes too many resources, and it's a waste of resources. Honestly, I work agile. Like, you have a request, I have an AI that I'm gonna put on the features I need to develop for your request to do the implementation, whether it's an automation or new software, like something in ClickUp. Like, I go request by request. Like, they send me a request, I type in ClickUp the title of the epic. I use Agile, and then the features, the user stories that we have. Then I send this to an AI, which creates a scope of work, and that's what I send to ClickUp. It takes me a whole 30 seconds to create the type of proposals. Otherwise, it's just not worth it.
Let's run a quick diagnostic on the most expensive mistakes you see. When agencies rush to implement automations without proper planning, what kind of critical errors do you see the most?
Again, so critical errors when building automations that they try to implement themselves. So first of all, they try to build an automation without understanding their processes first. So they try and they automate a task. So it's important to understand that automations depend, like whether you use ClickUp, SPP, whatever kind of tools you're using and you're trying to integrate or do whatever, you are using databases. Like, all tools use databases. You need to understand that your databases need to be in sync, that they need to match kind of, the structure of each other. And then they try to, automate a lot, and then they get errors here and there, and it kind of escalates from there.
I would also assume they build a lot of useless automations, right? Like you said earlier, sometimes it just doesn't make a sense ROI wise. You could just do it manually.
Yeah, exactly. Like sometimes, like you need to look in the process, and sometimes you are automating something, like something that I see that is very costly. Actually, now that I thought about it, is that sometimes people automate something that it shouldn't even exist, right? A process that, like, you need to go through, certain steps, understand your process, eliminate what doesn't need to be there. Like the first step always, like, you need to the first focus you need to have in your processes is just make it as small, as streamlined as possible. I've had a client come to me recently, which they've built their systems over the years, and they, like, the only thing they've been doing is that they have been adding, and it became a like total chaos storm with Google Sheets and ClickUp and SPP and everything. Like, I tried to go in there and I told them, okay, we just need to throw 90% of what you have, like, needs to just thrown away, and we just need to rethink your system. Because that's something, like, they build Google scripts to automate information from Google Sheets into ClickUp. That was an automation. Like, was it necessary? Absolutely not. Completely useless.
Yeah, no, that sounds completely insane. Yeah, this is what I'm actually wondering what goes on behind the scenes of agencies, because I talk to a lot of agencies, but it's very hard to know what are they actually doing. And when I have like demo calls or onboardings with like people for Service Provider Pro, I always ask them, so what are your pain points? What are you using right now? And then they tell you, okay, we're using these tools right now. We want to get rid of this tool. Can SPP, for example, replace everything? And it's always like, it depends. I mean, can it replace everything? Probably not.
Mhm.
It depends on what you're doing. It can replace a lot of things, but not always everything, unless you're extremely productized and very niche down. Then maybe it can do everything.
No, but even if you're extremely productized and niche down, like, in my opinion, like, I mean, as much as I love SPP, and it does have, honestly, I mean, I would prefer if SPP did not have a task management system. Like, people think that's enough. Like, there is so much more going behind. Like, you don't just have tasks to manage in your business. You have capacity to manage. How are you gonna delegate something to someone without knowing what their capacity is? How are you gonna scale your business and make it more templatized? Like, you need operations which go beyond simple tasks at a certain point as an agency, and it's not just a waterfall process for everything. You have a lot of variations, conditions, and so on. You have, like, a core process, and then you have, like, multiple sub processes. For example, you have a process which is, you get an order, the client submits their information, you review it, and then you already there, like, you have a small sub process, like, your statuses, for example, for a project, for a deliverable, is not simply, like, submitted, internal review in progress, client review complete. Is submitted, and then it goes to internal review. Internal review has other process which it's ready to review internally. It's being reviewed, it's accepted. We need additional information. When it's accepted, it moves to the next. Like, you have multiple sub processes which you do need to handle, and you can't just do it by everything having a dash checklist. You need a lot of elements into that, and a lot of people come to me, and then they come, like, they implement SPP, but I'm like, okay, you're gonna sell your services, but how are you actually gonna deliver? How are you gonna manage? How are you gonna scale? Yeah, you are 2 people now. You can handle pretty much everything in SPP, but how are you gonna scale to 10 people, to 20 people? You need something to handle that kind of workload, and the automations and integrations to support it.
We spoke a little bit about too many tools. And since you're like connecting and building automations, what do you think is like the most powerful integration that delivers very unexpected ROI for agencies?
small automations that automate your delegation process, right? Where you just change the status and then the next person gets the torch to, continue, like, without having to think who needs to get it, what information do they need. You build the right system in the automation, like they are just going to get it with all the information they need to do their processes. And they will also have, one or two buttons to click, move forward or take it backwards. It saves a lot of time in communication and, clicking too many buttons and so on. But now AI is changing the landscape also in here as well. Like, I can give you something else, which is another answer to another question. What is the most illusionary automation? So the easiest automation I built are the onboarding automations. But then it creates like they save tremendous amounts of time, right? They save 1.5 up to 5 hours per customer, depending on your processes, your internal processes per customer. But some agencies don't take that many clients per month. Like they take 1 or 2 clients per month. It costs a lot to build an automation like that because it includes a lot of elements. It's a huge process onboarding, depending on the agency, of course. Sometimes it's super small, and it creates the illusion that, okay, I want to automate it. It's a very hustling process to onboard someone because you need to create folders, set them up in your project management tool, set them up here, set them up there, and so on. But in reality, in a year's time, doesn't save you as much as an automation where your client gets to order, like place a request for your agency automatically, and then automatically that request goes to the right person to be implemented. Like that, for me, shortening the cycle, your delivery cycle with any sort of automations or integrations, those are the automations which are the most worthwhile.
I want to talk about success patterns a little bit. For agencies just starting their automation journey, what do you think is the minimum viable setup, the foundation that they should get for their agency so they can start automating?
First comes the tech stack. So as foundations, which for me at the bare minimum is, you might not even start with a client portal, to be honest with you. But at the bare minimum, you do need something like a payment processor, which is like Stripe, which can help you automate, payment processes and build, these services. Obviously, that's something a customer portal will help you build even more. But you can start with Stripe as your MVP and then integrate Stripe with, your other form. You do need, obviously, Google Workspace. That's in the foundations. That is a must. And then a project management tool, something like ClickUp, which brings you the rest, which it has forms, it has projects, it has pretty much everything you can use. Now, do you need a CRM for sale? Not really. You can build that. You can build that out in any project management tool, whether it's ClickUp, Monday, Jira, whatever you're using. You can build that out in there. Simple pipeline process, database to track your leads, to collect, customers. But that's the minimum viable. And then you can start automating. You get a client. Yeah, you need to create Google Drive for the folders. Okay, have an onboarding form. Like create a form. Go in JotForm, which is free. And they also have free API access. So you can go in Make, automate that when a form is filled, create Google Drive folders, create a project in ClickUp, you're done. And so on. And you can automate the process that when an invoice is paid from Stripe, send the form and you just figure out your process, like have these, very basic database tools, and then you can add to it. Then on top of this, you can add a client portal. And it's a good additive. On top of this, you can add AI.
Yes, speaking of AI, since you're a Make.com partner, you're seeing AI capabilities evolve rapidly. How are you using these AI features to make automation decisions a little bit smarter?
Honestly, right now I'm in the process of mostly learning and adapting and experimenting a lot. What you can get out of AI are currently 3 things. One, AI workflows, AI agents, and agentic AI systems. these three are different. Like sometimes people confuse them with each other. Like AI workflows are workflows, which in make.com, let's say, which you have a module of AI which takes a key decision or generates something using AI. Then you have AI agents, which is one agent has access to tools, whether you're using, MCP servers or whatever, and it can take action in your apps. Let's say your agent reads your emails, and depending on your emails, can go and create a task in ClickUp. Then you have agentic AI systems, which is a system which is multiple AI agents working together to complete a task that you're giving them. This is something that is currently still being evolved. Like Google released the A2A protocol, agent-to-agent protocol, which helps agents talk to each other to complete a task more efficiently. It's something that is going to work cohesively with the MCP protocol. So first is you need to understand how these things work, and then you need to start understand where do I implement AI, where do I have just a simple automation. So an automation helps you automate repetitive tasks, repetitive processes with decision trees, like predictable decision trees, predictable, whatever is predictable. AI can help you automate decisions, so which depend on too many variables. That an automation cannot read your email and understand the intent of what is this email about. Is it a request? Is it a promo email? Is it a marketing email? Is it a complaint? Is it a bug? Is it an issue? An AI can read it, understand what it is, and then according to its system prompt and what its job is gonna take an action as you want it.
Very cool. Yeah, I see a lot of potential in the MCP side of things. Not sure if just for agencies, but for people in general, because you have like this information overload and everything is spread all over the place. So if you want to find something, you have to look in 10 different places. So with the MCP, you can just give it access to everything and just ask it, hey, I need to find this and that. And you just get an answer.
Yeah, I mean, most it's not like the MCP, it's okay with it. Like where it comes super useful, it's just like, I mean, it's like you have a person, okay, MCP is like you give that person a wrench, like they can, fix an engine. You give them a woodcutter, they can cut wood. That's what MCP is for AI, is like you give them tools but obviously you need to also train your AI and to give it knowledge. Like you give me a wrench, I'm not going to become an engineer. You need to give me the context and information I need to fix an engine. Same is with AI. And honestly, I'm learning a lot of things from AI. Like a sort of paradox I learned or something is that people talk to AI with such description, and then they go and they talk to their teammates and they tell them, what they want in 3 words, and then their teammate does it wrong. And then they blame the teammate. Where when they talk to AI, they give it so much context, so it doesn't do it wrong. Like, I mean, the same way you talk to AI, you can also talk to your team members, right? The more context you give to your conversations, whether it's a person or an AI, the better results you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's true. I work a lot with Claude, and the prompts have to be pretty specific. And the way I approach it for like very complex projects, I ask Claude to write the prompts for me, actually, because I tell it to write a prompt that it would understand itself. So it knows itself the best, obviously. I don't know how to write a prompt so Claude understands it. And then I ask it to scrutinize it like 10 times until it identifies bottlenecks, or sometimes it writes like a prompt that is very strict. So it just goes through it from A to B, and then there's something coming out, but it's probably not what you're looking for. So by scrutinizing it over and over, it just sees different points and makes like pauses to reflect on what it's doing and then do the next step. So it's actually pretty cool. Like the same way you have to do it with humans. Like you have to give them instructions, think about, is it a good instruction? Am I too rigid in this instruction? Do I have to elaborate on specific things?
I do the same. Like whenever I write a prompt, I have I use both Claude and OpenAI and Gemini. I use pretty much everything. Like I test everything, and DeepSeek lately, and I use any models I can. Mostly I use OpenAI. I build an agent for my system. Right, that agent I didn't want it to be, I built a huge system prompt. I think it's like 3,000 characters, I think, or like it's like 3 pages system prompt. I consider that's kind of short. Lovable system prompt is like 40 pages. And then I built an agent, which is an AI. I called it an AI transcriber, well, not transcriber, interpreter, which is basically interprets like what I text or because I wanted to use voice with the AI. It's different when you talk and when you type. When you talk, you cannot do these super descriptive prompts with the, framework. So, give it a goal, give it instructions, give it a format, and give it context. You give it as much as you can with voice, and then you have an AI interpreter, which basically reformats what you said into a structured prompt. And then it tells you, like, if it needs additional information, it replies back to you. You give it the additional information via voice, and it constructs the prompt, which later sends it to the rest of the AI agents to complete the task. And I like from Anthropic and from Claude that they have this in N8N, there is this think module, which basically the AI uses that think module to basically rephrase itself one or two or three times to understand the intent of the user much better.
Evripides, thank you so much for taking us inside your little automation engine room. Where can our listeners learn more about you?
Best place is LinkedIn. Honestly, that's where I'm mostly, up to date, and also, honestly, I'm a very communicative person. Just send me a text. I reply pretty much to anything, anywhere. Emails I'm a bit delayed. I do not like email. I feel like it's the most counterproductive form of communication, but it is necessary. Just a text and whatever kind of question or anything you have, I'm happy to answer, even if it's for brainstorming or whatever.
Thank you for sharing these insights. Remember, great tools are just the start. The magic happens when you strategically implement them into your agency's workflow. This is Dejan Isak. See you in the engine room.